You see the headline. You know how this goes. Let's get into it. When Ramanullah Lakhanwal came to the U.S. from Afghanistan, he appeared lively and full of hope, but over the course of years, he slipped into isolation and was prone to taking cross country drives without telling his family, according to a volunteer who worked closely with his family. Lakhanwal, an Afghan national, is accused of shooting two National Guard soldiers on November 26. One of those soldiers, 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom, died from her wounds. On Monday, West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey described the other Guard member, 24-year-old Andrew Wolf, as in serious condition. My biggest concern was that Lakhanwal would harm himself, the refugee resettlement volunteer told NPR. I worried he would be suicidal because he was so withdrawn. The volunteers spoke with NPR on condition of anonymity because they said they feared for their safety as well as the safety of others in their volunteer community because of possible retaliation for having worked with Afghan refugees, including the Lakhanwals. They said when they first met Lockenwald in 2022 at his home in Bellingham, Washington, he appeared hopeful and outgoing. He was outside with his kids, laughing and playing and having animated conversations with other Afghan men, they said. Lockenwald held jobs for brief periods and hosted gatherings at his homes, the volunteer said. But by 2023, he began isolating himself and appeared defeated by the challenges of finding steady work and adapting to life in the United States. Bigotry has side effects. Racism has side effects. It takes a toll. The volunteer shared with NPR emails sent in January 2024 that raised alarms about Lockenwald's well-being. He spends most of his time in his darkened bedroom, not speaking to anyone, not even his wife and older kids, one email said. I personally believe that Mr. Lockenwald is suffering from both PTSD and from his work with the U.S. military in Afghanistan. The volunteer wrote, adding that they are not a healthcare professional. Speaking on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, that is a stretch to call her that. I know that's the title that she was confirmed to have, but said U.S. officials believe Lockenwald was radicalized while living in the United States. Mm-hmm. We do believe it was through connections in his home community and state, and we're going to continue to talk to those who interacted with him, Noem said. If it was people from back home and people from his community, why wasn't he radicalized before he stepped foot on this land? It is far past time that the United States reconciles with the tyranny and the terrorism that lives within it. But the volunteer who worked with Lockenwald and other Afghan refugees in Washington state told NPR they saw no sign of radicalization. Instead, they described an individual who seemed to be experiencing a deepening personal crisis, complicated by Lockenwald's poor English language skills and deepening cultural isolation. The volunteer said there were no organized resources for refugees beyond their initial welcome, and that is the problem. There are more resources available to Jewish individuals, especially Zionists, that want to immigrate to Israel than there are for people willing to immigrate to the United States. You bigots, white supremacists, and racists want to hoot and holler about, well, speak English, speak English, speak English, but you don't provide any resources for people to do so. Families were just in my mind abandoned into the community, the volunteer said. Before coming to the U.S. in 2021, Lockenwald served in one of Afghanistan's elite counterterrorism units, according to the Afghan EVAC, a nonprofit that supports Afghan refugees and is run by U.S. veterans and others who serve in Afghanistan. Lockenwald's unit was operated by the CIA with direct U.S. intelligence and military support, according to Afghan EVAC, and fought the Taliban on behalf of the U.S. government. CIA Director John Radcliffe said in a statement last week that the shooter involved in the attack was admitted into the U.S. due to his prior work with the U.S. government, including CIA. The volunteer told NPR they had no detailed knowledge of Lockenwald's military duties and never observed him expressing hostility towards the United States. They said his increasingly erratic behavior never suggested any kind of threat or danger. I was so shocked that this happened, I asked myself, were there warning signs? No, the volunteer said. While the volunteer couldn't provide insight into Lockenwall's possible motive for the alleged attack, they were aware of him making long drives like the one that took him to Washington, D.C. last week. Beginning in 2023, Lockenwall would disappear for weeks at a time in the family car, roaming as far as Arizona and Illinois. So what really caused him to be this disheartened that it turned violent? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section.